This is Jerome Bogs, who faced life in prison after being convicted of the double murder of Blister Cook and his young son TJ during a robbery gone wrong. Bogs broke into the Cook family home with a weapon, intending to steal, but events spiraled into violence when he was confronted by Blister. Tragically, Bogs shot both Blister and TJ, leaving the family devastated. In court, Blister and TJ's family members spoke through tears, recounting their memories of their loved ones and the horror of that night. Bogs showed no emotion as the judge delivered a life sentence, and the family walked away knowing they had faced justice, though their pain would endure far beyond the courtroom. This is Jason Harward, on trial for the murder of his ex-girlfriend and her 2 young children. Prosecutors detailed a harrowing timeline where Harward entered the home uninvited and committed the brutal crime, allegedly fueled by jealousy and rage. When the family confronted Harward in court, emotions ran high and grief turned to anger as some family members tried to physically retaliate. Court security intervened to restore order, but Harward's stoic silence only deepened the family's sense of betrayal. As he received his life sentence, Harward remained expressionless, while the victim's family walked away with scars that would never truly heal. This is Malik Terrell, who showed no remorse after being charged with the murder of Dennis King over a video game dispute.
Malik, you ruined my life. You took my baby, my only son. He didn't deserve that.
The altercation began as a heated argument and escalated when Terrell lashed out in violence, ending Dennis's life in a moment of rage. Terrell's demeanor in court was chilling. His lack of emotion left Dennis's family stunned. Family members fought to keep their composure as they shared their memories of Dennis, describing him as a caring friend and brother. Terrell's sentence was delivered swiftly, yet his indifferent reaction added a haunting layer to the already devastating loss.
Apologize, like I said, for taking his life. And it wasn't over no video game. You right, it was cause he came back to my house and tried to attack me.
On a scale of 1 to 10 for homicides, this is about a... Now, he did the defendant, year-old. When he gets a chance to make a statement to the court, he feigns remorse and then tries to blame the year-old.
This is Harvey Weinstein, the once powerful film producer who faced multiple charges of sexual assault. His trial became a landmark moment as survivors of his abuses took the stand to share their stories. Weinstein's defense argued against the charges, but testimony after testimony painted a grim picture of manipulation and power abuse. Weinstein sat in court, visibly uncomfortable as he listened to the testimonies that would lead to his conviction. His sentencing marked a pivotal point in the fight for justice for survivors of sexual violence, symbolizing a moment of validation for those who had suffered in silence for years. This is William Zalinsky, who was accused of fatally shooting his girlfriend's son, Riley, under circumstances he claimed were accidental. According to the prosecution, Zalinsky fired the gun with a deliberate intent, but in court, Zalinsky argued it was a tragic mistake. Riley's family, however, believed otherwise, calling Zalinsky's actions cold-blooded and reckless. In the sentencing, the court ruled against Zalinsky, sentencing him to prison. Riley's family members left the courtroom grieving the life that had been taken from them too soon, knowing that the justice system had finally spoken, yet aware their heartbreak was far from over.
Common sense, logic. If Riley's running down this road and he sees him even a third of the way down the road, though he said he saw him at the corner, but the picture the defense put up, it was pitch black. 977 days ago, he lost his life. He lost his life when Bill Zalinsky put a double-barreled in his armpit and pulled the trigger. Dr. Kovac testified that the shot blast at that close range caused Riley's death. Tore open the bottom of his heart, his aorta. Dr. Kovac opined that he had maybe 10 or 15 seconds of life after that. We know Bill Zalinsky pulled the trigger and Riley. He called 911 and he said, Riley Menente was walking home. I confronted him. He came at me and I shot him. Throughout the investigation, he claimed it was self-defense. Except that Riley Menente Powell did not have a knife. He did not have a baseball bat. He had no weapons on him. He was walking home. Bill said he was walking home from the jail where he had been transported because he owed money on a New London fine, municipal court. An intentional homicide requires that the defendant cause the death with the intent to. But if you listen to the judge's instructions, it doesn't mean that on the morning of October 19th, Bill intended to kill Riley. I don't believe that. I don't think any of you believe that. It doesn't mean that when he drove to Mill Street, or was started to drive to Mill Street, that he thought, I'm going to go to Mill Street and Riley Menente Powell. Of course not. But as the judge instructed you, that intent to can be formed in an instant. And I submit to you that when you pull the trigger of a double-barreled 12-gauge, which you've already pulled back the hammers, that is intent to. It's also in the instructions that intent is the mental purpose to take the life or was aware that his conduct was practically certain to cause the. Anybody experienced in. You don't have to be experienced in to know that if you put against the person and press into them downward and pull the trigger, that it's practically certain they're going to. Now that's the information we knew back on October 19, 2020, 977 days ago. As of June 19th, 2023, at the beginning of this trial, he wants you to believe that pulling the trigger was an accident. It was Riley's fault. He didn't tell the dispatcher it was an accident. He didn't tell Tiffany Powell it was an accident, Riley's own mother. He didn't tell Tara Dalrymple it was an accident when she was at the scene screaming, "Why did you do this?" In fact, he said, "He came at me, I had no choice." Does that sound like an accident? 977 days later, it's an accident. But it wasn't an accident on October 19th, 2020. He didn't tell any of the officers who arrived on scene that it was an accident. He didn't tell Officer Wasrud, Shabilsky, Deputy Thorpe. He told no one until this week. He had 977 days to come up with the accident scenario. That was 977 days that Riley didn't have. Now, he testified yesterday on how he was terrified of Riley. But he also testified about all of his police training, that once or twice a month he'd come across hostile subjects. He talked about how he was learned to de-escalate situations. He learned how to control a subject, how to place somebody under arrest. So when it's convenient for him, he draws on this police training that at the time he hadn't used in over 15 years when he was separated from the city of Wapaka.